What's going on, guys? This is the beginner's guide to arbitrage, how to actually get started, because I know most of you guys that are either in my Discord or watching me on YouTube and Instagram, want to start but don't really know how. And honestly, I will warn you right now, it does get a little bit confusing, so make sure you have a pen and paper throughout this video to take some notes and to get the absolute most out of your first watch. And also, I recommend watching this back a couple of times just so you know you have the hang of it. But first, you guys need to understand that arbitrage sports betting is not going to get you banned or limited. Making too much money will get you banned or limited. Just a quick disclaimer before we get into the video, before you guys don't want to do the strategy because you don't want to get banned. 97% of sports bettors are not limited, don't even know what limits are, because 97% of sports bettors are unprofitable. And I guarantee you, if you ask anyone in the top 3%, they have been limited or banned before. So with that being said, let's get straight into the video. So, what is arbitrage? Arbitrage is a financial term used to describe discrepancies, right? It's used a lot in day trading. It's used a lot in the on Wall Street by a bunch of these different traders. When there's an arbitrage opportunity in sports betting, it means two different books have odds that are so out of sync with each other, so mispriced that we're able to bet the over on one sports book, the under on the other on another sports book, and make risk-free profit no matter what happens. So, how does this actually work, right? When are these things available? What sports books can we use? All of these different things. I'll break this video down into a bunch of different sections for you guys, so everything is super clear and you guys, can follow along a lot easier. Number one, how do these odds work and how can we spot an arbitrage opportunity? So first, odds are essentially just payout indicators and reflectors of market perception. Odds will tell you how much you will get paid out for a certain bet, but odds also tell you what direction a market is moving in, if one's a favorite, if one's an underdog, right? You guys understand that plus-sided odds will pay you a lot more than minus-sided odds. The plus-side odd is generally the underdog and the minus-side odd is generally the favorite. So when we have two sports books and one event, right? So let's say, for example, the finals game, right? Let's say that is our event, and we have two different sports books for the over and under totals points. We have DraftKings and FanDuel. DraftKings has the over at plus money, and FanDuel has the under at minus money. And then you might be saying, well, that's pretty normal. But how we can actually figure out if it's an arbitrage opportunity is if the plus number is larger than the minus number. When the plus number on any side, it doesn't matter if it's the over or the under, if there's a plus side odd and a minus side odd, if the plus is bigger than the minus, that's how you know we're able to take advantage and make this into an arbitrage opportunity. So I'll put an example on the screen right now of an arbitrage opportunity that I actually took and placed, and I'll break down the math behind it. All right, guys, so as you can see right here, I have an arbitrage opportunity for tennis for these players' first set game spread, right? So we have Maria on rebet at plus 2.5, and then we have the other opponent, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, at minus 2.5. So as you can see, our event is the total game spread, or I'm sorry, the first set game spread. And then obviously we have each opposing end on two different books. So on rebet and DraftKings, the plus side odd is greater than the negative side odd, so that means it's a profitable arbitrage opportunity. So we have plus 150, minus 111, with the proportionately sized amounts, $1,000 on rebet, $760 on DraftKings, we come out with a risk-free 7.39% profit, or in my case, $140. And this is the math behind it. Alright guys, so I drew up a little bit of a board here so you guys can see the math behind the strategy, right? So on rebet, we have $1,000 times the minus 111 odds, and then on DraftKings we have 760 times the plus 150 odds. And this is how you actually calculate it, because the goal of arbitrage betting is to make the payouts match on both sides. So that's why you have to place obviously different stakes for the different odds. So on rebet we have 1,000 times minus 111. So to calculate a negative side odd, it's the profit equals 100 divided by the absolute value of the odd, so 111, times your original wager, so 1,000. This would leave us with $900.90 in profit. But if you add our original $1,000 stake, that leaves us with a $1,900 total payout. And on DraftKings, it's almost kind of the same thing, but we're flipping the 150 or the wager and the 100 because it's a plus side odd. Every $100 that you bet, you're getting $150 back. So profit equals 150 divided by 100 times our original wager of 760. This leaves us with 1140 in profit, or $1,900 total payout. I'm sorry. So the next chapter is sports books. Which ones are good to use, which ones are bad to use, which ones work for arbitrage in general. So I'll be talking about sports books that I have access to inside of the United States just because that's where I am. I'm not familiar with any other country's sports books, so you do your own research. We have slower to limit sports books and quicker to limit sports books. The slower to limit are the big four. These are the four largest sports books inside of the United States. So we have FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and Caesars Sportsbook. Next, we have the quick to limit category with books like Bet365, ESPN Bet, Bet Rivers, Fanatics, and Ballybet. These sections are pretty self-explanatory because these are slower to limit and these are quicker to limit. And we'll get into limits and all of things like that later on in the video, but just kind of going over sports books for now. Our third section are exchanges and sweepstake books. So we have things like Fliff, Rebet, Sportzino, Novig, ProfitX, and Thrills. ProfitX, Fliff, Rebet, and Novig are my four personal favorite out of these six. You'll see me talk about them a lot, betting on them a lot. I personally like ProfitX and Novig great because they do not limit you. Again, we'll go over limits and all of these things and how these work later, but right now, just know that Novig and ProfitX don't limit you, so you want to keep those in mind and definitely get on those if you have access to them. So now that you know the sports books that you have access to or the differences between them, and obviously how arbitrage works, we're going to get into how you can actually get started. So if you were to try and do arbitrage just by yourself, right, without any help from AI, without any type of software that helps you, you would never be successful. You would never see any profits. You would never even be able to catch an arbitrage opportunity, right? Because arbitrage is all about speed. These bets are only up for a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes, right? So every second counts, every minute counts when arbitrage betting. And so what I do is I use a software called OddsJam. So what OddsJam does is they scrape data from thousands of different sports books and pastes all of the profitable opportunities onto your screen in live time. So obviously live refresh, and basically OddsJam will just show you every single profitable bet to take. So if you want to follow along and use OddsJam with me, you can click the link in my description for a 7-day free trial and use code JC35 for 35% off your first purchase. But if you choose to use a different software, that's completely fine. That's completely okay with me. I personally don't know of any other better ones. If I did, I would probably switch, but as of right now, OddsJam is the greatest. They've been the greatest to ever do it. But like I said, if you want to follow along, use the link below and use code JC35. Alright guys, so going over to the OddsJam arbitrage calculator, as you can see here, we have the entire user interface of just profitable arbitrage opportunities in live time. Obviously, you can mess with these different sports books as well. You just click the filters and adjust these. You don't really have to touch too many things. The only things that I actually do mess with is the percentage. The only thing that I have is the minimum at 1.5. I don't have a max, but when I am doing live arbitrage, I tend to take out tennis because tennis lines just move way too quick and you'll never be able to get a successful live arbitrage bet in. All right, guys, now that we have OddsJam set up, all of our filters are good to go. Now we're gonna actually look for bets to place. So as you can see here, there's a 1.5% arbitrage opportunity for this tennis line between DraftKings and Bet Rivers. So because arbitrage requires speed, what we're gonna be doing is looking at this calculator here. And the key here is to memorize the odds and the stake to their according books, right? Because every second matters with arbitrage. We don't want to be wasting time switching between OddsJam and the calculator back to the sports books and trying to remember which odds were which stakes were which, right? So your key here is to try to memorize this as fast as possible. And what we're going to be doing now is opening the OddsJam one-click bet feature. So what this does is if we click the green button, it'll open each sportsbook automatically, and it's also going to add the bet to your bet slip. So you don't have to waste time searching for the market, searching for the player, and searching for his prop, which already saves you like at least 30 seconds to a minute, right? Now, obviously, we have plus 120, minus 113. The odds match up, and all we would need to do now is place the stake on each sportsbook. So obviously, for the sake of the video, I'm going to go back here. It's $860 and $1,000. So what I'm going to be doing is $860. And then on Bet Rivers, it's $1,000. I'm not logged into the sports books at the time of recording, but now all we would need to do, since the odds match up, these stakes match up, now we just submit the bet on both ends and wait. So now all we need to do is wait for the game to end. Whichever player covers the spread, it doesn't matter. We're going to come out with a risk-free $30 in profit in my case, or whatever you wagered on, 1.51% return of your original stake. Okay, so now we are going to talk about limits and bans. I first want you to remember the disclaimer in the beginning of the video that you will be banned and limited eventually. It's all about keeping it sustainable and keeping your account alive long enough for it to you know, for you to make a good amount of money off of it before you do end up getting flagged and restricted and all of these things. So there are a couple different things that you can do to stay under the radar. I've posted about them before. I will say it here again, but the first one is using whole numbers when you are betting for your wager sizes, right? So sometimes on the OddsJam calculator or whatever software you're using, it'll tell you, right, bet like $236.30 on this side. You want to round that down to like $235, right? Use whole numbers like $230, $240, $50, $100 instead of like the cents, the 56.37, the 127.54, right? Because what that does is it triggers AI detection systems from, you know, the sports books, basically signaling that you are a sharp bettor, that you are an arbitrage bettor, because nobody's really betting cents on their accounts multiple times, and that is just a huge red flag. So definitely always use whole numbers, round up, round down, whatever you want to do. Next is to avoid obscure markets. So what do I mean by that? Obscure markets: Korean baseball, Japanese baseball at 2 in the morning, European table tennis, all of these things that no one bets on, no one even watches. If you're sitting there hammering $1,000 on each side or on that specific market at 3 in the morning, they are also going to know that you are an arbitrage bettor because nobody is even watching that stuff. Very simple, very self-explanatory. So stay away from things like player props, stay away from things like obscure markets, and stick to things like mainstream markets, like money lines, spreads, point over unders, things like that are generally more efficient for the sports books. Won't be as suspicious if you are hammering, you know, arbitrage bets on it, because there's just a bunch of liquidity that runs through these markets. And the third tip that I have for you guys to stay under the radar is to be a mug bettor, to start mug betting. And that means betting like a stupid person. The goal is to look like a degenerate, because you don't want these guys monitoring your account. You don't want them noticing that you're winning so that they won't limit you, right? And the way to do this is to throw in a couple long shot parlays, you know, once a week, twice a week. You can mix them in frequently. Or if you're just starting a brand new account, mug bet for like a couple of days, maybe a week before you actually start getting an arbitrage bet. You're basically just losing a couple of dollars and returning a lot more. Alright guys, and the last chapter that I will be talking about in this video for the introduction to arbitrage is your bankroll. How do you decide how much is a good amount to start with? Is there a minimum amount necessary? What is too little? What is too much? Well, I will tell you this right now. You can start arbitrage sports betting with any amount of money. The only rule of thumb is the more money that you put in the beginning, the more money that you will see a lot quicker and a lot faster. I started with $600 or $800, something like that. I know other people that are starting with 5 to 10 grand. All timelines are different. There is no tangible number. It all depends on your situation with what you're comfortable betting. You should not be putting your rent money on arbitrage sports betting. You should not be putting, you know, bills, you know, the money that you pay your bills with, the money that you pay your credit card with. You shouldn't be taking out loans to gamble. I don't care if it's arbitrage betting, right? Your bankroll should be money that you would be 100% okay with losing if something ever happened, right? So bottom line is figure out how much money works for you. There's no tangible number, right? I started with $800. Other people are starting with thousands. So if I can do it, you can do it as well. Get resourceful, find ways to make money. Find ways to be a successful sports bettor, because that's what it takes to get you to the top 3%. Alright guys, so as I'm editing this video, I wanted to introduce you guys to my newly released Arbitrage Academy. Now this is where you're going to get access to a bunch of my daily personal bets that you can copy and paste. You're going to get access to 2 private group calls every single week with me and my team, a library of 22 plus arbitrage training modules, as well as some recordings of one-on-one coaching calls and exclusive community and support. If you want to learn how some of my students are making upwards of $20,000 every single month, this is exactly where they started. So if you're ready to make that jump, to start making a lot of money from sports betting without having to do a lot of work, without having to pay for other people's BS picks, without having to spend time and hours researching different props, different parlays, then definitely check out Arbitrage Academy. I'll leave a link to it in my bio. You could also upgrade through the free version in my Discord. That's going to wrap up this tutorial. If you learned something, make sure to check out the VIP Arbitrage Discord, subscribe to my channels, subscribe to my socials, follow, turn your notification bells on. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.